Hello my friends and welcome to another vlog. Today is Friday and I am going to start this vlog today because it just made sense, and I'm going to be reading 4 books, so I wanted as much time as I had to read all of them and then edit this video and get it up for you all. This vlog is the runner-up to the Kindle Unlimited one in the poll that I posted in the community tab a little bit ago. So I'm reading 4 new horror and thriller books. A lot of these are new releases that a lot of people are talking about right now. A lot of them are anticipated releases for me. So I hope that this video is still fun for you all. I hope you haven't heard too many opinions on these books and you're not overhearing about them. But I also wanted to start this vlog today because Justin got home early from work, and so I don't know how much I'm actually going to be reading today. I kind of want to watch movies because we've been in a really big movie watching mood. And actually, in case any of you care, I'm on Letterboxd now. I downloaded the app and I'm on there, so I'll link it in the description in case any of you want to follow me on Letterboxd, want to see the movies I'm watching, want to see the ratings I'm giving them, since I don't really talk about movies too much on here. I'll leave it linked down below in case you want to give me a follow. But yeah, we might be doing a lot of movie watching this weekend, so that's another reason why I wanted to start the vlog early. But the book that I'm going to read first is Mother Thing by Ainsley Hogarth. So this is actually an anticipated release for me. I was obsessed when I saw this cover. I was obsessed when I heard the plot because it's like a dark comedy kind of about mother-in-laws and like the mother-in-law coming back to haunt. It just sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like it's going to be kind of silly, but also like hopefully a little bit spooky. I've seen a lot of people really enjoying this one. I was actually sent a copy of this book, so this was from Vintage Books. Thank you so much for sending me this. I am so excited. So this is the first book I'm going to read in the vlog, and yeah, I'm just gonna see how it goes, see if I end up liking it, see if the hype is real for this one, because we know that I've been having some issues with anticipated releases this year, so let's hope that this one isn't a disappointment for me. But this is the first one I'm going to be reading, so I will start it today and let you know how I am enjoying it. Hello friends, so it is Sunday and I know what you're thinking. You're like, Erin, didn't you start this video on Friday? You are correct. However, yesterday, Saturday, I was not feeling good and I was very tired and I just didn't really move or do anything all day, so I kind of just laid in bed. So I barely got any footage of me reading or doing much. I did read and I finished Mother Thing by Ainsley Hogarth, and I have thoughts. But if you're wondering why there's not a lot of footage, that's why. I didn't like this as much as I wanted to. I really expected to love this. I really expected to give it like 5 stars or 4 stars at least, but honestly, this book is not what it says it is. I think the description of this book is a little bit misleading, and so if you are like me and you are going into this book thinking it's a ghost haunting supernatural kind of story, you're not gonna get it. This is not that kind of book. This is not that at all. First off, the back of the book and like the description talks about Ralph and Abby moving in with Ralph's mother, so Abby's mother-in-law, and how Abby really wants to be close to her mother-in-law and she wants to see her as a mother and she wants to, you know, she wants to have a bond with her, but Ralph's mother is really cruel and doesn't like Abby. And then it talks about how Ralph's mother takes her life and then starts haunting them, right? And so the beginning of this book, like the very beginning, like immediately, Ralph's mom has already killed herself. And so I thought that this book was going to be more about, at least I thought it was going to ease us into that. Like, I thought that we were going to see Abby and Ralph's mother's like dynamic a little bit more and like set the scene a little bit more, and you just kind of like dive right into it. Another thing is that the writing is very stream of consciousness. So if you don't like that, I don't think you're gonna like this writing style. But if you like Ottessa Moshfegh's writing, like Eileen or Lapvona or My Year of Relaxation or whatever, I think if you like that, you'll probably like this because it feels very similar. When I was reading this book, I was seeing a lot of similarities between how Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh goes. I wasn't the biggest fan of Eileen, mostly because it's not what I wanted it to be. It's not what I expected it to be. I think I gave it 3 stars, which is pretty much what I'm gonna give this. My other problem with this, and this is a me problem like everything else is, like this is just my opinion, but this is supposed to be like a comedy, like a dark comedy, but it wasn't really funny to me. Like, I wasn't really like laughing. Like, I said this in one of my videos like last week or a week ago or something like that. I said when you're reading horror and comedy, there's those books where you read them and you're like, ha, ha, ha. And then there's books where you're like, ah, ha, ha, you know, you're laughing. This one's the first one where you're like, ha, 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 you know? So it just wasn't my kind of humor. It's not funny to me. It just wasn't my kind of like funny. So that's also another thing that I just didn't really care about. The characters are all very odd too. Like, I couldn't connect to them. I didn't really find any like common ground with them. I wasn't like, I don't know, I just didn't see myself in any of the characters. I couldn't really relate to the characters. So I don't know, this was just not really for me. I think if you're a big fan of Ottessa Moshfegh's writing and you like that kind of more stream of consciousness and you like that like dark humor that's, you know, I guess, I don't know how to explain what the humor is like, but if you like that, then you probably enjoy this. But again, don't go into this thinking that it's a ghost haunting story, because that's not really what this is at all. So I would try to manage your expectations differently for this one, because it's not what I thought it was going into it. So this was a miss for me. It was just fine. Like I said, it's probably just like a 3-star. It's just like a, okay, that was it. That was whatever. Which I'm really sad about. I do love the cover, but I just don't think this book was for me. I don't think it's my kind of horror book. So yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about this one. So next up, the next new release I'm gonna try is Jackal by Erin E. Adams. This is a thriller. It is another one of my most anticipated releases. I'm very nervous. I have not had the best luck with anticipated releases this year, so I am a little worried that I'm gonna hate this, but I am very excited for it. I think the cover is beautiful. I think the plot sounds like something I'm gonna really enjoy. So I'm going to give this one a start today and hopefully finish this today, because I'm a little bit behind from yesterday. So I will check in whenever I finish it or something happens. Hello my friends, it's check-in time and we actually have a 2-for-1 check-in because today is Monday, but last night I finished Jackal, and then before I got a chance to tell you all what book I was going to read, I started reading We Spread by Ian Reid, which was the next book I was going to read, and I actually finished it today, just a few hours ago, because it was such a quick read. So I'm doing them at the exact same time. I'm gonna do Jackal, and then we'll talk about We Spread, and then I'll let you know what the fourth book is. So first up, we're going to talk about Jackal by Erin E. Adams. So this is a thriller, and this is about the main character, Liz, who is going back to her hometown for her best friend's wedding. And she's not exactly thrilled to be going back home because the town that she's from is predominantly white, and she doesn't have the best memories of her hometown. And then when she gets there, the night of her best friend's wedding, her best friend's daughter actually goes missing, and then there's a huge hunt for her. This ends up reminding Liz of something that happened in the past. A girl that she went to school with was found murdered in the woods with her heart missing, and so this becomes like a race to find the daughter and make sure that that doesn't happen to her. So this was an anticipated release of mine. I was very excited to read this. It's a thriller, and I liked a lot of this book. I feel like for a debut thriller, this was actually really well done. I think my only big thing about this book that took it down for me was the ending. It's a little bit confusing. It doesn't give you too many answers, and it just, I don't know, I feel like it kind of took away from the overall message and plot of the book. I do feel like this has a lot of good things to say about Black women and Black girls that go missing, and how the media and attention is very different, and just kind of like how the search for them is always very different compared to other cases. I think this book had a lot of good things to say. I think it pointed out a lot of good things about Black girls that go missing, about being a Black woman from a small town. I think that there were just a lot of good points made, and I feel like the ending kind of took away from that, in my personal opinion. This ending just wasn't my favorite. It just went in a direction that I personally don't care for, and I don't really like the unanswered questions that I have, I guess. So I'm not quite sure. I feel like this is a 4-star for me because I did really enjoy pretty much everything else. I feel like the author really kept me on my toes for what was happening, and I could never quite work out 100% what was going on and if I was right or if I was off, you know. I feel like the author did a really good job. I just feel like that ending wasn't my favorite. And then we have We Spread by Ian Reid. So I didn't anticipate finishing this before updating you all about Jackal, but this book read extremely fast, and that's because there's very little text per page. Like, the text to paper ratio is just like, it's just one of those books where there's very little text half the time, so it's just really fast to flip through. So I just read this like insanely quickly. But the plot of this book is about Penny. She is an older woman, she's an elderly woman, and she gets moved to a long-term care facility, and when she gets there, things start getting a little bit odd, and you go on the journey with Penny and trying to find out if, you know, it's like her mental state or if something is really wrong with this long-term care facility. Now, I am a huge fan of I'm Thinking of Ending Things. It's probably one of my favorite books. I gave it like a 4.5. Looking back on it, it's probably a 5. I don't really know why I gave it 4.5, but it's one of my favorite books. I do recommend it a lot. It's really, really great, and that's the only other Ian Reid book I've ever read. So this one, I didn't quite know what to expect, and a lot of people have been having like super intense emotional reactions to this book. A lot of people were saying that they were sobbing and crying, and a lot of people were saying that it was just like an emotional gut punch for them. And I'm a crybaby, I'm a crier, I cry a lot, like I'm a very emotional person. This didn't really affect me. I don't know, I was anticipating crying, but I don't know, like the overall message I understood. I get it. I totally understand what Ian Reid was doing and what the overall thought process was, but I don't really know if it worked for me. I don't know. I don't know if it's just not, I'm not connecting to it, I guess. It was enjoyable to read. Like, I liked it. I didn't dislike this book, but I just don't feel that connection that most people are feeling to it. So I don't know. I'm unsure how I feel about this book. I'm gonna sit on it a little bit. I don't really know what my feelings are right now at the moment because I'm unsure. I just, maybe I need to let it marinate. Maybe I need to let it, like, I just gotta think about it. I don't really know. It was fine. Like, I liked it. It was fast. It was easy. Like, I enjoyed it. I just don't really love it like everyone else seems to. So I'm gonna think on it a bit. Maybe my opinion will change. I don't know. But it was good. It was a fun read. Like, I'm happy I read it. I'm not mad about it. I do prefer I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I think that is far superior in my opinion. But yeah, it was good. And the last book that I will be reading, I'm not going to start this until tomorrow because I have all day to read tomorrow, but I'm going to read White Horse by Erica T. Worth. This was my book of the month for this month, November. But yeah, I'm excited to read this one and see what it's like. I've heard a lot of good things, so I'm excited, and you're gonna come along and see if I also enjoy it like everyone else is. Hello friends, it is Wednesday and I'm here to update you all on White Horse by Erica T. Worth. I finished this last night and I really enjoyed this one. So the plot of this one is about Carrie. She is an urban native and she receives this bracelet that used to belong to her mother from her cousin Debbie. And when she touches this bracelet, her mother's ghost starts popping up. She starts seeing her mother's ghost. And also, she starts seeing this evil entity, right? Like, there's another entity that she's seeing, but it's definitely not like a nice entity. It definitely has like evil radiating from it. And now, because of this bracelet, Carrie ends up going on this journey to find out what happened to her mother and what the truth is about her mother's disappearance. While I was reading this, I was really comparing this to Jackal. Like, I feel like these two have a lot in common. They're not identical, obviously. There are differences and they're not like copies of each other. They're their own individual book, but I do feel like they have a lot of similarities. One being that they deal with missing people. In Jackal, the disappearances are about Black girls and they go back like decades. And in White Horse, the missing person is Carrie's mom. But I will say that that's not like the only thing they have in common. These two both have like supernatural elements to them. And also, of course, the main characters are BIPOC. In Jackal, Liz is a Black woman. In White Horse, Carrie is an urban native, but they deal with topics surrounding their communities, but also I feel like the characters have a lot in common in terms of like who they are. Like Carrie, she's 35, she's single, she's, you know, she's a drinker, she loves horror, and she doesn't date, you know, she just like hooks up. She's not like trying to make a family or anything. She's not long-term dating or anything like that. In Jackal, Liz is a very successful woman, but she's not really dating, she's not having kids, so I feel like both of them have like these molds that other people want them to fit into, and they're just not fitting into them. And I like the representation that both of these are like single women and they're independent and they don't rely on men. I really appreciate that. I don't know, I just felt a lot of similarities between the two characters. I will say that I felt like Carrie in White Horse was a little bit more fleshed out, in my opinion. Like, I felt like she was a little bit more, I don't know, like detailed. Like, I felt like she felt a little bit more real, whereas Liz, I couldn't quite get a grasp on her sometimes, and I think it makes sense for where the book goes in the end, but just personally I think I related and felt a better connection to Carrie. But while reading White Horse, I definitely noticed that I felt differently about Jackal. I really did enjoy Jackal. I really liked the commentary that Jackal had. I really liked a lot of the book. I had a lot of fun with this one. I enjoyed like 90% of it, but the ending was a real big miss for me. I feel like the supernatural elements of Jackal didn't tie together as well as I think I initially thought it did, or like I wanted it to. Whereas in White Horse, I feel the opposite. I feel like the supernatural elements came together really well and it made a lot of sense, and the ending was a lot more concrete and less gray than Jackal's was. Now, these books are very different, obviously. I'm not saying they're identical or like word for word copies or, you know, the same book. They're very different, but I did notice a lot of similarities between the two, especially since I was reading them one after the other. I think I was able to pick up on it a bit more, but I just wanted to make that, like, I don't know, I just wanted to bring that up in case you really like Jackal. I think you would really like White Horse as well, or if you really liked White Horse, I think you might like Jackal as well. I do think they have a lot of similarities in their storylines, and I think that's really interesting, and I do have to say that I enjoyed both of them though. So in White Horse, I think a lot of people are going to love Carrie because she is a horror lover. She loves Stephen King. There's a lot of Stephen King references in here, a lot of The Shining references. I know a lot of people are going to absolutely love that because Stephen King is, you know, he's such a big name. So I feel like a lot of people are going to absolutely love Carrie. I really liked the supernatural elements of this. I really like when ghosts kind of come back to haunt people, but not necessarily in like a malicious way, mostly just in a way to like get their story told and like try to figure out what happened to them, which is exactly what this was doing. So I do like that kind of trope in like haunting books. I feel like this will be a good beginner horror novel for a lot of people. Like, I feel like if they don't want to necessarily be super duper scared, I think this would be a great option for them to pick up because it's not super intense, it's not super scary, but I think there are a lot of moments that a lot of people would find very atmospheric and kind of spooky and give the same vibe, but just not necessarily super duper scary. So I do think this is a great like beginner horror novel, and I think it helps with the missing person, like, you know, Carrie trying to find out what happened to her mom. I feel like that element is super big, like kind of like in the Sundown Motel. It's like the same thing. So I feel like if you like books like that, you would probably really enjoy this. Overall, this book was really enjoyable. I did really like it. I would say it's probably like a 4-star. I didn't have any major complaints. There's like one thing that has to do with Debbie and her husband, Debbie the cousin. Her husband doesn't really like Debbie and Carrie hanging out, and he's very like controlling, and I understand why that was put into the story, but some scenes with Debbie and the husband and Carrie just didn't make, I don't know, I just didn't know why they were like so prominent sometimes, because in the end I feel like it didn't really have this big head-on conclusion that I was expecting it to, so it just felt a little like stuffed in there sometimes. But another thing about White Horse is I did find it a little bit predictable. I knew the twist, if you will. I knew the twist really early on. I thought it was pretty obvious, so that kind of did take down my enjoyment just because I like to be surprised, but it still was really good and enjoyable, and I did like overall really like my experience while reading this book. So that, my friends, is the end. Those are the 4 books that I read for this vlog. I would say the only one that I don't really know my full thoughts on, like I don't really know where I stand with it, is We Spread by Ian Reid. I still just don't really know how I feel about that book. I wasn't obsessed with it, but I didn't dislike it either. It's just one of those books where I don't really know how I feel about it. Like, it was enjoyable, it was easy to get through, I don't feel very strongly one way or the other about it, which is unfortunate because so many people really, really, really loved We Spread, and I just feel like I'm kind of one of those people that I just don't know where I stand with it. So I'm still gonna sit on it a little bit and feel like maybe if I marinate in the book a little bit longer and think about it, maybe I'll come to some profound conclusion if I hated it, loved it, or whatever, you know, I'll figure it out. But as of right now, We Spread is the only one I don't really know where I stand with it. Mother Thing was by far the most disappointing read out of this vlog, and I would say the most surprising read was, I don't know, Jackal and White Horse. I wasn't really necessarily surprised that I liked them. They were just surprising in terms of, I guess, what happens in them, like where they end up going, like the overall idea of them. I would say White Horse is a little bit more predictable, and Jackal wasn't. Another surprising thing was just Jackal and White Horse being fairly similar to each other, which I thought was very interesting. Yeah, I guess those are my thoughts on the 4 new horror and thriller releases that I read for you in this vlog. If you've read any of them, let me know what you thought of them down in the comments down below. If you agree, disagree, I'd love to hear your opinions. If you enjoyed this vlog, please give me a thumbs up. It lets me know that you had fun watching it and you want me to keep making vlogs like this in the future. If you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe to my channel. We can become friends, talk about books, horrifying books, thrilling books, romance books, manga, all that fun stuff. And with that being said, I hope you are having a great day, night, morning, afternoon, wherever you are, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!